As the task of data management becomes increasingly complex, more and more institutions and public organizations, including SFU, are outsourcing their data management to U.S. companies. On October 21, 2004, several amendments were made to BC's Freedom of Information and the Protection of Privacy Act, in response to the Patriot Act of the United States. These amendments stipulate that any information maintained by these companies must at all times remain within Canada. This investigation looks into the implications of these amendments with regard to SFU in light of the U.S. Patriot Act.
The Patriot Act is a very unique act because it overreaches, it extends and requires individuals and companies outside of the legal jurisdiction of the United States to comply with that law. And so you've got the United States passing the Patriot Act, which would obligate an individual within British Columbia to provide that information. And at the same time, you've got a British Columbia law that says, we don't think so. And that's where the friction rubs. And that's why a FOIPA was passed, to try to address the overreaching U.S. Patriot Act.
In 2002, SFU outsourced its student information system to PeopleSoft, a U.S.-based data management company operating in Canada. The new system collects a variety of data, from student records and registration to payroll and finance. We approached the Chief Information Officer at SFU and asked him whether or not their contract with PeopleSoft required them to abide by new amendments to the privacy law.
No software vendor will guarantee to do that. They will all indicate that on a best efforts basis they will ensure that you remain compliant. But again, from the vendor's point of view, the government could do something very complicated that they would simply say, well, it's impossible for us to do that, therefore we will have to withdraw from that market. But now, for example, on the HR side, they have, I know, I can think of 10 or 15, 20 customers in BC, including the provincial government, that would be non-compliant on the HR payroll side if something really weird came out. So it would be interesting to see how the government reacted to its own rules.
On October 29th, the Office of the BC Privacy Commissioner released a 151-page report in response to some 500 requests for inquiry into the Patriot Act and what it means for British Columbians. This report came after the new privacy amendments were passed. Luca Della said that he supported the amendments, but some things that had not been considered were web-based databases, such as GoSFU, the stipulation that new law would not apply to existing contracts, as well as the location of backup or redundancy systems.
Any large database of information usually has a backup system, and it is imprudent for that backup system of information to be located in the same jurisdiction. So frequently, even though information would be stored within the province of British Columbia, you may well find that there are backup systems of information that are across the border. I don't think that the legislation, in my view, addresses that.
We decided to go to PeopleSoft and find out for ourselves how much access PeopleSoft had to the data at SFU.
Simon Fraser manages their own system, all on their own. They brought in some consultants to help them with the actual implementation, but Simon Fraser itself runs the system themselves. Outside access to the Simon Fraser system by us would only be provided if Simon Fraser had a problem or issue that they needed us to get access to the system, and they'd grant us support, access. Otherwise, PeopleSoft has no access to the Simon Fraser system.
Maybe I'm saying too much and I'll regret it, but let me give you an example. Let's say you're a student at Douglas College, right? It actually doesn't affect Simon Fraser as much as it affects Douglas College, right? We electronically trade transcripts at Douglas College, and in order to do that, we've agreed to take the services of a free service from a US university. So to send your transcript from Douglas College in New Westminster to Simon Fraser, it goes to Austin, Texas, fully encrypted to a trusted third party, and then it comes back to us. But now it's left a Canadian border, right? Mind you, anything we send on the internet could have left the Canadian border, so you had no idea where it went. Even if you're sending it from here to Vancouver, it could go via Blaine, Washington, for all you know. So, I mean, there are some issues about, you know, if there's a law that's an anti-privacy law in some other country, that's something we should be concerned about.
Although PeopleSoft has no access to SFU's data, there are still risks inherent to any web-based or remote data backup system that have yet to be addressed. Further investigation is required to determine whether or not other public organizations and institutions besides SFU are safe from the long-reaching implications of the U.S. Patriot Act. For On the Hill News, this is Luke Scheidel.